Scale Your Mastery podcast welcomes David, a master storyteller and advocate for preservation of life. David's journey is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, overcoming profound depression and physical challenges to redefine his purpose. In this episode, we delve into David's mastery, his innovative approach to mental health advocacy, and how he transformed his own personal struggles into a powerful message of hope. We're hoping today our conversation will create inner dialogue for you that helps you light your path so you can experience more joy, fulfillment, and
Mm,
enjoy
mm.
your journey along the way. Here are the things you need to know. Number one, I am your host, Tracy D. Malone. I am the host of Scale Your Mastery podcast. And number two, you need to know I created my own definition of mastery and I want to share it with you. We define mastery as the ability to do a physical or mental activity at a high level while allowing your true personality to shine through. Now,
Mm.
I truly believe that the world would be a better place if more people discovered their mastery and operated in it at a high level. Also, I'm hoping our conversation today will open up new ideas for those of you who still need to discover your mastery or how to put it to its highest and best use. Now, if you're joining us live or watching a replay, I want you to keep this in mind. This is an interactive conversation, and you're encouraged to respond to the questions down in the comments. So, audience, I want to get you involved. Here's your first question before I go to David. What stories have shaped your life and how can
Mm.
you use them to inspire others? So, David, it is such a pleasure. Thank you for being on the podcast today. You are doing a humongous service to everyone out there watching by sharing your story. Now, our emphasis today is going to be highlighting the way that you've taken those
Mm.
darkest moments in your life and transformed them into discovery for your purpose. And today, I want to start with this one question I always like to kick off the conversation with. Tell us, what is your mastery? And then describe a turning point for us that led you to discover your mastery. Tell us about it.
Well, one, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for not only having me as a guest, but thank you for what you're doing. And I love, I know you've told me the definition before, but maybe because it's a Tuesday, I don't know. It rang through so beautifully, just like, wow, that's brilliant. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I look at what I do best, well, or let me put it a different way, because at 62, really, I want to be, I think I shared this with you before that Denzel Washington, and if you've not heard, I mean, he's not just a great actor. One, he just became ordained at 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a number of motivational talks online, which are incredible. He divides life into three segments. The first part is you learn, the second part you earn, and the third part you contribute, you give back. And this at 62, I'm in this last part. So I want to say I serve, I think, best and most efficiently by telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we talked about this. I grew up just with my best friends and and I'm 60, as mentioned, 62, and we couldn't watch TV all the time. And oftentimes we would just sit around in the living room and one of us would say to the other, "Hey, tell me a story." And we would tell stories. And so I just grew up with that. And I never knew in a million years that this would be my level of mastery.
Wow.
And if I look at, chronologically, the first thing that was horrific,
Mm-hmm.
well, there was two. The first was the loss of my father when I was just 7, and that was, of course, for a child, that was beyond terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's traumatic in every way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And and yet, when I was sodomized and raped on repeat occasions by a Boy Scout leader, when I was new in the Boy Scouts, having done Cub Scouts and having done Webelos, which is the intermediate, and then wanting to be having dreams of being an Eagle Scout and this villain, this evildoer,
Mm.
every time he would inflict terror and trauma and pain and all kinds of things, he would say, David, now remember, these are initiations, very important initiations, and all the boys go through it. But remember, you promise you don't talk about it. And so a child of the 70s, generally speaking, if you were told to do something or told not to do something, you were compliant. And I'm a compliant child.
Mm.
And Maya Angelou has an extraordinary quote. Pretty much everything she writes is extraordinary. And the one that this extraordinary soul wrote, in which he says, there's no greater agony than bearing the weight of an untold story.
Mm.
And so when people ask me, how did you become depressed? I said, well, what was that? That story untold does the exact opposite. Because I believe I'll quote Lady Bird Johnson, who said, people need to be given the opportunity to hurt out loud. She didn't say they need to be fixed. She didn't say that you got to jump in. What she said is they need to be given the opportunity to hurt out loud.
Yeah.
And so you put Maya Angelou and Lady Bird Johnson, two transformative women, transforming women. I lived umpteen decades. I didn't tell the story.
Mm.
And so it's interesting, just as I say this to you now in the sacred space that you've created, my beloved friend, is that in not maybe understanding, realizing, remembering, activating, embracing my mastery, in the absence of that, and really tying into your beautiful definition of it, I almost died.
Wow.
Like it will do us great harm. Wow, actually, oh man, wow, this is amazing.
Mm.
This is I give credit to God because I'm not this smart to think like, wow, if we ignore, if we don't embrace our mastery, I don't believe the universe is going to punish us because I don't believe in a punitive universe, but I do believe that we will never realize our true given right of wellness. Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's incredible. I never realized that.
Yes.
And so if I look now, the universe has given me this extraordinary gift to go around the world and talk about, my base talk is divided into 4 parts. It's answer 4 questions, like what happened?
Mm.
What happened? What's it feel like?
Mm.
How do you become well? And then what can we do?
Mm.
And so I get to go around and all I do is I just tell stories. I don't, it's so funny. And it's so funny.
Mm.
I was in Seattle last Friday at an army post, which I love because my eldest brother who raised me is a retired general officer. And
Mm.
like when I do work with the army, I honor him. He's my guy. And I almost never use statistics because that's like not my game. And in this one talk I did, it went bad. Not the whole talk, that one part.
Mm.
And I'm like, you know what? Stay in your lane, brother. Tell stories. That was it. I quoted a stat, which I never do. And I'm like, no.
Mm.
I stopped from my mastery. I have no mastery in statistics. I don't. My mastery is to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah.
It's funny
Wow.
you mentioned that, and we're going to stick with this, but it's funny
I
you
love it.
mentioned that your mastery is not in telling stories. But you know what? There are people out there whose mastery is in telling stories. Accountants, bookkeepers, CPAs, etc.
And I'm just going to make a correct. You said stories. You mean statistics.
Yes, they tell stories with numbers.
Oh, God. Okay. God. Right. Okay. God.
Yes.
Yes. You
That
know what? You're right. You do.
yeah.
But I wonder if they put it like you do, which I think is so brilliant. That's so cool.
Right.
Wow.
So what's the cool thing though is you recognize that you had stepped outside of your mastery.
It was. It
right?
was, and
And
yeah,
then the same is probably true for them if they know that their mastery is using numbers to tell stories. If they tried to tell your type of story, they probably would have felt like you.
no, and you know what? I agree. And it was what was interesting to reinforce that point was I had an interaction with a soldier after this particular talk. And I've done more than 900 talks in the last 14 years.
Mm,
I have literally never had that happen before.
mm,
And it was all about that statistic. It
wow.
was like the universe saying, hello, what are you doing?
Like hello and goodbye. No, no numbers.
I couldn't believe it. And I said to my friend, who's an amazing man, he's a chaplain. I said, whoop, okay, I learned my lesson on that one. That was, wow.
But I want to stay
Woo.
with this. I want to stay with this because this is very potent and powerful. The story you just showed, I mean, the story you just shared, it emphasizes this point. Engaging stories illustrate that even the darkest moments,
Mm.
there is potential for transformation and the discovery of one's unique purpose,
Oh,
aka mastery.
amen. It is. It's it's interesting. I have a dear friend of mine who's suffering from depression, and I love her like a sister. And so I'm doing what my eldest brother, which we'll share a little bit later, does for me on a regular. But well, I'll share now. What So the last 18 months of my life have been incredibly difficult.
Mm,
The triad of who we are, body, mind, and spirit. Mind, basically, we're dead.
mm-hmm,
I, I fell into fell back into a horrific place of hellness.
mm,
My left hip be rapidly deteriorated, causing ridiculous pain, and I lost my faith in God. I did. I
mm,
just said, no God of mine would direct such suffering to me.
mm-hmm,
And so my eldest brother, along with my wife, along with my former wife, and other extraordinary people, just came to help me in
mm-hmm,
more ways than possible. But my eldest, in the last 18 months, every single day, and he lives in Illinois, 2 hours ahead of me time wise,
mm-hmm,
with his beloved bride of 48 years. He texts me every day,
mm-hmm,
and it's always in four parts, always the same. First part is what he's doing that day, and that makes me feel close to him.
mm-hmm.
It's almost like I'm right next door, and it could
Yeah.
just okay. Doing errands, I got to do this, and whatever it is, go working out, got personal trainer, whatever. Second part is his direction for me. So it's like having a coach. It'd be like you coaching me.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates accountability and
Yeah.
things that when you're depressed, man, it is hard to be accountable. But, at the end of the day, is it easier for me to do what I told my brother to do or tell him I didn't do it? Like, I'm
Oh.
going to go ahead and do it. Third is a motivational quote. And fourth is a sentiment. And it's always the same: love you.
Mm.
Trace, he's not missed a day in 18 months, including today.
Wow.
18 months. And so now I teach this, and what I call it, because a mutual friend of ours, Jennifer,
Mm.
when I shared her this, she said, David, you have to teach this. I'm like, what are you talking about? She
Mm.
said, David, what your brother has outlined is you need to let people teach this because you've given them a blueprint how
Yeah.
they can support somebody.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this. I have four people in my life that I do this for.
Mm.
Great. And my one is a dear friend. She and I were both on staff at a church for many years. And out of the blue, she texted me and she says, I'm really suffering. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember the question, the second question that the police officer asked me as I was about to jump off the 730-foot tall Forest Hill Bridge. The first question being, David, please share with me how you are feeling right now, which was shocking in the most positive way, which had me stand up and step back because I couldn't believe a police officer. And I asked him, do you really want to know how I feel? He said, yes, I do. So I was like, wow.
Mm.
And the second question is the greatest relationship question of all time. He looked at me and he said, what can I do to help you feel supported right now? And the genius of Trace, it's not what can I do for you, because we will all say, oh, I'm good. I don't need anything. But
Mm.
when you say, what can I do to help you feel supported,
Mm-hmm.
people will answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
And so my beloved friend, I said, what can I do to help you feel supported? And she said, well, just stay in touch with me. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she is hooked up with a therapist, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
We go back and forth. And I was listening to a motivational talk. It was kind of a collection of things. And this gentleman who had gone through a horrific experience, and I don't even know what it was, but what he said, and this goes back to your question. I'm sorry, I'm so long-winded. That your question was, how the darkest moments, it was your beautiful comment, how your darkest moment can be not only transformative, but they can be used as something of value, of service to another soul in need. And this man said, he's in somebody said to him, well, what about this? And he said, this is the story that I'll one day tell. And I'm like, oh oh my gosh, that's tricky. That's exactly what I said. So I sent it to my friend. I said, this is this. And it's not about, and I love because sometimes I hate, quite frankly, I'll be honest, I hate the expression when someone says, well, what doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I said, well, how about I smack you in the face? You know what? Man, like, don't say that. That's use. I hate that. You
Wow.
tell me this is the story that I'll one day tell. Like, okay, you know what? Because what you're saying so many things in that you see my greatness, you see my strength, you see that
Yes.
I'm a. You're not discounting my suffering. You're not discounting my feelings. You're,
Right.
you're not telling me to suck it up, Buttercup. None of that.
Right.
You're reminding me one day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
One day, this is the story that I'll one day tell.
Wow.
That's what you're talking. That's why you're one of the many reasons you're so great, my beloved teacher.
Wow.
It just your essence around mastery is just like, yeah, like, man, it just we will be pained, not by a punitive universe,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gonna be that, that thing that why don't I feel as good as I know I could feel? Well,
Yes.
you're not giving the world what it needs.
That's it. That's it.
No?
That's it. You know, and I heard this a while ago. Um, that depression. One way of looking at it is like it's anger turned inwards,
Yeah, right.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
But if
Yep.
we can focus on that mastery, allow it not just to elevate ourselves, but if we allow that mastery that we've developed to be a guiding force to serve others, it's going to be kind of tough to get depressed.
It is. And there's a great quote that I read recently that said, who then can so softly bind up the wounds of another as the one who has been wounded himself?
That's it.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
that's pretty brilliant.
that's it.
Again, it's like, well, wait a second, like, because of it just makes me think. People say, well, how did you get into speaking? And I'm like, well, I would love to say it was like a call from the heavens, but it wasn't. So I've been saved from killing myself, and now I'm an inpatient. I'm doing therapy and meds and all, which are all fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day someone says to me, well, you should tell your story. And I'm like,
Mm.
what story are you talking about? They said, well,
Mm.
like you didn't jump. And I'm like, no, I didn't jump.
Mm.
And I'll be honest, I wasn't necessarily like, oh, thank God I didn't jump. I was
Mm-hmm.
still, struggling with that whole
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept saying, no, you really need to do it. Like people would be helpful. Like I said, you're an idiot. He was a good friend of mine. I said,
Mm-hmm.
you're an idiot. Like no one's going to want to hear this story.
Hmm.
And he said, no, they have this thing called the Speakers Bureau. I'm like, well, what is that? And they're like, well, they go around to the different places in the county. I live in a great county. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and mental health services in my county, they are so, they're like a model for the world.
Wow.
They said, you go around to these different places and tell your story. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. And he says, well, they'll pay you $100. I'm like, sold. I'm done. I said, you're not messing with me, are you? Because I had lost everything at that point. Literally had nothing. And you're
Wow.
gonna pay me $100. You're gonna pay me $100. He said, oh yeah, they'll pay you $100. I'm like, okay, sign me up.
Wow. That's brilliant. You just identified.
It was like
Wow.
that.
Do
It
you
was,
realize you just identified two of the hallmarks of someone who's developed mastery or is leaning into and accepting what theirs is one, you would do it even if it was free. Two,
yes.
you'd especially do it if you got paid for it. Like, that's a no brainer.
Oh yeah. And now, it's so interesting because, in 2023 was I had really climaxed I mean, I was all over the world on 4 different continents. I don't know how many speeches I'd given. I had to turn stuff down, um, received as an income more money than I'd ever in my hat, and then fell into this depression again at the end of 23, and then didn't work basically at all in 24. And I'm like, to say to the universe, like,
Mm,
well, what is the deal? I
mm-hmm,
mean, so I'm still kind of working through that. It's
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
but my mind has been restored through what most people would think is a very
mm.
controversial therapy.
Yeah.
My body, my hip has been replaced,
Wow.
and I realized that God, the universe, wasn't directing suffering upon me,
Mm-hmm.
did not ordain any of it to happen, and instead actually helped me to realize that, like, what were some of the blessings that were inherent. One of which, in this last year when I worked almost nothing, none. I got all
Mm.
this time with I got all this time with my kids.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I was home all the time, and I'm a new dad because my
Wow.
first beloved, we had animals at the animal
Right.
sanctuary. My beloved now is younger than I and has 3 amazing souls that are
Wow.
my children, and we were close, but
Right.
like a year at home,
Mm-hmm.
like oh wow,
That's
and then this new idea for my work, and
wow.
so
That
it's
that's fantastic.
yeah.
So I want to go into this next part of our conversation because I just feel like you are just like a poster child for this concept that, if we're fortunate enough in life, we end up finding some work that we enjoy doing. But if we're truly one in a million, that we actually get to do something we're passionate about and it's also our purpose.
Yeah.
So I want you to take a moment to describe how those two worlds came together for you and the difference that it made in your life. And before you speak on it, I just want to say this because I think it's so appropriate. The emphasis on aligning with one's purpose is crucial for achieving
Mm,
mastery.
yeah.
When we're
Yeah.
driven by a sense of purpose, we're more likely to persevere through challenges, achieve our goals, and develop resilience.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting because um I to be honest, I think when I first started speaking, well, I'll back up a little bit. My mother, my blessed mother Suzanne, who is now in heaven watching us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I always liked acknowledging people
Mm-hmm.
and just really derived a tremendous sense of purpose. And then my mom always said, you need to be an acknowledgement consultant. Like, you got to
Really?
teach people, this is how you recognize people. And my mother would just talk about this all the time.
Oh, I
And
never heard of
so,
that.
no, I hadn't either. And I don't even know if we hear about it now. But I think it's actually what is really it's really what I teach. I call it something, I call it connection as opposed to an acknowledgement consultant.
Mm.
And then when I started to speak, I'll be honest that it's different than it is now. That there was some component that I think there was ego involved in
Mm-hmm.
that. Well, I want to give a TED talk, and I want to do this, and I want to have applause and adoration and all these different things, and
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that
Right.
at all. But the last year in particular really humbled me.
Mm.
And I think also being 62, in per what the great Denzel Washington talks about, the time is to give back now. If I look at my speaking is my purpose, and if you were to distill it down, like, okay, well, what's your purpose in life?
Mm-hmm.
My purpose in life is to teach people to have access to hope for themselves and other people.
Wow.
Because I can teach you, Tracy, to experience hope anytime, any place, anywhere with anyone. It doesn't matter where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I can teach you, because what I can teach you is how to connect. Connection, the experience, when, in the words of the great Brene Brown, I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen,
Mm-hmm.
heard, and valued, when
Beautiful.
they give and receive without judgment, and they derive strength and sustenance from the relationship. Like, okay, so there's only one emotion that comes out of that. That's hope.
Yeah.
And hope defined is the feeling that what is wanted can be had. So if you put 1,000 people
Mm-hmm.
who are suicidal, 1,000 attempters just like me,
Mm-hmm.
if they said, okay, if you had to take, what was the one emotion you were feeling, it would be hopelessness.
Hmm.
Like, because my pain is never going to end, whatever that pain is. So conversely, if you give somebody who's suicidal the feeling of hope, the feeling that what is wanted can be had, like, you're telling me there's an end to my pain. Well, I'm not going to kill myself. People who attempt suicide, universally, they don't want to die.
Mm.
That's the misconception. Universally, we don't want to die. Well, why are we going to kill yourself? Because what we believe, not thought or felt. It's all based on belief. Belief drives action. Action drives feeling. Feeling drives thought. It's that there's no other way to end our pain. What if I gave you a different option? And you're like, okay. And see, that's that. So my job. So really, I am now integrating what my mother wanted me to do in the acknowledgement of people, and what I teach: 3 methods of connection, recognition, understanding, and expression. I tell people, become great at remembering people's names. Like, do that. You want to rock somebody's world?
Mm.
Every time you see them, call them by their name. You
Mm.
want to rock somebody's world? Remember their son's name.
Mm-hmm.
You want to rock their world? Pay attention to when they mention a date, write it down and put it in your phone, and then say, hey, if I got it right, today's your anniversary. Happy anniversary. You will blow their mind.
Right.
It'll shock the seen, heard, valued.
Mm-hmm.
And then expression, do what my brother did. Just text. Take it to the next level. Write a handwritten note.
Mm-hmm.
Make a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next level, when you're worried that somebody's suffering, you ask him, you say, hey, I might have it wrong. Forgive me if I do, but I'm getting a sense that you're suffering. And use that word specific, not struggle. Struggle is about effort.
Yeah.
Suffering is about pain. This
Yes.
is pain. We want to talk about pain. I don't care about how hard you're working. I care about how much you hurt. Like, I might have it wrong, but I get a sense that you're suffering. What can I do to help you feel supported right now?
Mm.
People are not going to ask you for a house.
That's good.
They may ask for a hug.
Right.
It was, and this is not about me.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just because I see this. I actually see this on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram now knows. They say, okay, well, this guy wants nothing but positivity. We're not going to show him anything. The algorithm has figured me out. Like, it's just give me all it is. And I say, thank you. I'm so glad. I don't need all the other. Just give me all these positive videos. Give me Denzel, right? And Ray Lewis. All these really.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. It's so great now. So I watch all these, and so I came out of count. I had therapy today with my amazing therapist, my psychiatrist, Dr. Daniel Bites. You know the name of his practice is? This
What?
is so great.
What?
Beautiful Minds.
I love it.
It's just
I
like,
love it.
oh, I love this. So I was getting ready to check on when my next appointment was, and there was a woman in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Something's not right. What do I do?
Wait a minute. Say that again because we got a little
Okay, so
glitch there.
there's people in the waiting room, And I look over to my right. There's a woman in a wheelchair. She is moved up against where the ledge is, and she has her arms crossed, and her head is in her arms. And I'm like, okay, like what do I do?
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, I got to do something.
Mm.
And I said, and I looked at her. So she then turned around and I said, are you okay? And she said, no. I said, I'm so sorry. And then she went on to share that she had fractured her back. She was in horrific pain, and it was complicated by some other things. And we just, we talked, she talked. I just listened. It didn't, and at the end asked for her name so that I could pray for her. And then the doctor came out and she said, thank you so much
Mm.
for talking with me. And I'm like, hey, I'm astonished. I'm astonished. There are these two guys on Instagram. One is Zach from Canada. I'm like, I can't think of the other gentleman's name, but they both do similar things in which they go to people who are despondent or of meager or minimal means, and they go there pretending that they need something. Like,
Oh.
hey, I just, I don't have anything to eat. Could you give me something? Or I lost my wallet. And these people always respond as, the homeless people say, well, here, man, you can have this. Then ultimately, but they both do the same thing. Like, you know what? I really didn't lose my wallet. I really didn't need the money. I just want to see who would be kind. And then they give them significant sums of money. And the people are like, no, like, no, yeah, no, you take it. It's just, so I mentioned that because I was in Walmart last week, and I was buying my daughter for my daughter's birthday a helium tank, and I just noticed behind me on the row behind me there something was going on. I couldn't quite figure it out, and just kind of glanced over, and there were 3 Walmart workers, and there was a woman sitting in a wheelchair, and I glanced at the screen and it was like all red. I'm like, okay, well that's probably not good. So I walked over and I just kind of took a guess and I said, can I pay for this? And she said, this woman said, no. I said, no, it's okay. It's okay. Hey, she said, I just came from the hospital and I got to have soft food and I don't have soft food at home. And there's a problem with my card. I said, sister, it is okay. This will be the best thing I do all day. And just, it was $47. That's all it was. Just like, wow. And that was because of these 2 guys online. I'm like, I watching them, and so we hear all this like, oh, there's crap on the internet. Well, no, there is, but there's also other stuff too. Like I would not have done that had I not watched those 2 extraordinary people do their thing, and just go and just to think the difference you can make for $47. Like, it was amazing, and so I am committed, especially now, because my mind, my body, and soul have all come back together after 18 months. Wow. And I shared with you before that my Facebook account got hacked, and so my beloved said to me, she said, honey, I cannot believe. She said, I cannot believe how great you are handling this. She said, honey, in the past, you would have lost your mind over this. You're like a totally different person. I said, well, if I look at, I won't forget what this last year was like. I won't. And I won't forget all you and everybody else has come together. And the way I can give back, my purpose is to be a vessel, to be a vehicle for hope. I don't think there's any more important emotion. And there's a guy on Twitter. I don't go on Twitter. My niece found it. His name is Matthew, and he loves cats. Check out his definition. You think Brene Brown's definition of connection is good? Check out Matthew's definition of hope. Here's what he
Oh,
says. He says, people tend to think of hope as delicate and ephemeral, made up of whispers and spider webs. It's not. Hope has dirt on her face, blood on her knuckles, the grit of cobblestone in her hair, and she just spit out a tooth as she rises for another go.
whoa. Wow.
That, that's why people don't kill themselves when they feel hope. Because that's hope. What this that may be the greatest thing I will ever read in my life. That's Maya Angelou great.
That is so good.
Just spit out a tooth as she rises for another go. It's like I saw something on Instagram. It said, it's such a great thing. It says, I'm a suicide attempt survivor. Nice try, depression.
Wow. Wow. Talk about perspective.
Oh man, I'm like, whoever wrote that, that's like, man, I get that. That's like, yeah, nice try.
Wow.
You
And you
put
know
that.
and you know what? All of these expressions you're sharing are definitely the sound of someone who's come out the other side.
Exactly. You know what? Exactly. And it goes to that quote, who then can softly bind up the wounds of another better than one who has been wounded himself? It's just,
Wow.
it's yeah, so I'm really trying, especially with Dr. Vinus and with you, my beloved sister. Maybe I'm not supposed to give 50 talks a year. Maybe it's supposed to be something different. It doesn't mean I won't be telling. It won't doesn't mean I won't be telling stories.
Mhm. Mhm.
It is just, but maybe it's maybe to finish the book. The book that I shared with you that has the funny title.
To where
Yes.
they said I just
Wow.
ultimately
Yeah.
needed to accept the fact
That
that I
is
was going to have
beautiful.
a reduced
Yeah.
quality of
So
life.
I'm just,
And
it's, and that's
that was
that
that.
thing. And,
And I was
praise
like, you
God,
know
all
what?
it needs to be
I'm
what
not
the
okay
size
with
of a
that.
mustard
You want me
seed
to
to have
just
this
sit
aspect of
around and
faith.
wait to see if I end up
Because
better
I
as a
thought,
victim?
well,
That's not
I'm going
an
to do
option.
X number of talks,
Mm.
So I started to
X
look
number
at
of
that
talks a
and
year. Maybe
evaluate
that's not the key,
instead of feeling sorry for
just,
myself
Mm.
or letting
but
that
you gave me a great
label or
idea
take on that
earlier.
identity
So.
What's that?
of my life
Well, I'll
being
do the
over
short
because I
videos.
have chronic health conditions. Instead, I
Oh
started to
yeah,
do
for
my own
sure.
research
That's
and
that's
really
brilliant,
advocate
sister.
for
My
my
gosh,
own
that's
health
amazing. Like
and
I'm gonna
dig
do it.
deeper into what I can
That is
do
yes, I
to
would
help
definitely
myself feel
say
better.
that that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's
Wow,
brilliant.
that is
You
amazing.
are 1,000% right.
That
That
is
I just
yes.
and it's it's so interesting. This what I until being in your sacred presence, I didn't realize that when my mother had long wanted me to do to be an acknowledgement consultant, really to look for the good. I am doing that now in teaching people to connect because you're acknowledging the presence, you're acknowledging the state, you're acknowledging the need, you're acknowledging the greatness. My eldest brother, the one who's the dad who texts me every day, he transformed every army unit that he was in using the
Mm.
handwritten note.
Wow.
I mean, and my brother is incredibly humble, and he would always send it to their house.
Mm.
And it would just say J.R. Bartley in the return address, and they're like, wait, the only J.R. Bartley I know would be Major General Bartley. Like,
Yeah.
what is this that General Bartley is sending a note to my home?
Wow.
And it would always be three things, always. First, it'd be timely, it'd be specific, and it'd be authentic. And it would change, it would literally change people's lives. And I have a copy of one. He has sent me several, and I at the end of 2023, when I was at my worst, he sent me, it
Wow.
says, David, you can beat this. Love, John.
That is beautiful.
These are
Wow.
these are the things.
Mm, mm, mm.
And they're so simple,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, it seems I'm just thinking about this right now. I think, true. If I look at what the masters that I'm, the Denzel Washingtons, just the Tracy Malones of the world, the Jennifer Olivers, what they teach is very simple. It's not complicated at all. It's, you know, in fact, so Denzel, I listened to a talk, um, and I just started doing this. He said, these are the 9 things you need to tell yourself. It's on my phone. That's why I'm looking at my phone.
Mm-hmm.
These are the 9 things you need to tell yourself every day. He says, I am the best. You're not better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You're the best. And this would be, I'm achieving mastery.
Yes.
I can do anything. My future is bright. I am getting better each day.
Yes.
I will work hard. No excuses. Life is precious. I was born to do great things.
Yes.
People's opinions don't affect me.
Mm-mm.
He said, so Denzel says, say that to yourself every day. I said, okay, you know what? So this is like, I've done it for a week now. Like,
That is beautiful.
if Denzel says it, I'm doing it.
That is wonderful.
It is. And
Wow.
so I think, the true masters have the simplest messages.
Mm-hmm.
They really, I'm just now, I don't think I ever read it, and it kept coming up. So I'm taking it as a universal
Mm-hmm.
message to read it. Is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow he survived the Holocaust and went on to write about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he has this, and you know what, I think this also would apply to mastery. And the quote is, he who has found, and I won't get it exactly, but it's close enough. He who has found a why to live can surely survive almost any how.
I totally agree.
Yeah, which I think is mastery. So I think for me, the why at 62 years old is, I want to teach people that they can have hope anytime they want it.
And that's the what, and then the how is the storytelling.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just story. It just, I mean, and
Wow.
there's so many, and I have a new take on my work with suicide, because I never liked the word suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm.
So I've shifted it to life preservation.
Love it. Love it. And that's just another hallmark of a person who has developed mastery.
Yeah.
They create a whole new language.
And one day it will happen that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, they will change their name to the American Foundation for Life Preservation. They will.
Beautiful.
They will do it. I don't need credit. It's God. God gave me the idea. But they will change it.
That's just like the word life insurance.
Right.
I thought, why call it life insurance? Why not call it love insurance?
Ooh.
Because you want your loved ones to be well after you're gone.
Oh, I love that. Well done. Oh, that's beautiful. It is. It is. And I think, and because you're a wordsmith, that, and, for me, I think part of the issue that we're having in regards to this crisis is, we have to call it something different.
Yeah.
The term it's worn out.
Stigmatized.
Well, it is like, and plus people are not highly motivated to participate in suicide prevention, but they are highly motivated to participate in life preservation.
There you go. I never saw a person or heard of a person drowning that didn't want to preserve her.
Well, exactly. You know what? And because the purpose of the preserver is to not necessarily keep you from drowning, but it's actually to keep your head above water.
Right.
Well, connection keeps your soul above water.
That's it.
Like, it does, because
That's hope.
Hope floats.
That's it. Hope. Right.
Hope floats. It does. And it's Jane Goodall has this great quote about hope. She says, hope is often misunderstood. People think of it as simply passive wishful thinking. I hope something will happen, but I'm not going to do anything about it, which is the exact opposite of hope, which requires action and engagement.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually beautiful news. What she's saying is, if you want it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. But you have to be engaged.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
nothing, you can't be passive about it.
Nope.
And it's the same way with mastery.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have
And
to engage with mastery. It doesn't happen by happenstance, you know?
no, and I think, and because you do it, I think Jen does it, and others. It's now everywhere I go, it is it's an opportunity to give people hope.
That's it.
Just
That's
that's I
it.
just pass out hope because
That's
it
it.
is. I think hope is far more important than love. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
far more important than faith. I think
Mm-hmm.
and joy and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
You can live without those. You
Mm-mm.
cannot live without hope.
Mm-mm.
You
You gotta
can't.
have it. You gotta have it every day.
You
We've got about 6 minutes left in our session,
okay?
and I want to give us a powerful way to um, exit the stage, if you will.
Okay.
And from your experience that you've shared today, it is a reminder for all of us that early experiences in our life that
Mm,
can lead to mastery, they will evolve if we continue to place importance on recognizing our innate talents.
yep. Amen. Amen. I would highly recommend people to watch the great Ray Lewis, number 52 for the Baltimore Ravens, one of the greatest linebackers of all time. His TED Talk is about transforming pain. It is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And it's exactly, sister, to what you were talking about. He has become a master. And he was a football player.
Wow.
And it is, and so I think about that in every day to think every upset, okay, how can I transform this?
Mm-hmm.
And the other who I've become a huge fan of and just crushing blow that he is not with us anymore is the great Kobe Bryant.
Oh, yes.
His talks on the internet are just phenomenal
Oh,
and
yes.
transforming pain. He said,
So inspiring.
"Oh, incredible! I just like, oh dear God, that he
So
is not with
inspiring.
us." Oh,
So I want to bring the audience in before we close things out to ask them another question.
okay.
Audience, how have you turned your personal challenges
Mm,
into sources of strength and inspiration for yourself and others? I
mm,
firmly believe that if we lean into our mastery, it gives us this superpower to not only show up for ourselves, but to show up for other people. So, audience, that's your final question for today. And what we're going to do in the last 4 remaining minutes or so is give David a chance to tell us what he's working on and how we can find him online. So, go ahead and share with us, David. What are you up to, and how can we stay connected to you?
so if you Google me is the easiest way, David Woods, my great grandmother's maiden name, David Woods Bartley, and you'll find my phone number. Please call me. I'm happy to talk. No one ever calls. Email address and everything else. It's really, Trace, to continue to go out. I shifted the work into really focusing on what I call operation preservation, and the tagline is "Make tomorrow possible."
Mm,
And if you're interested in having me come speak, in person is preferable because I think the message plays best in person, but I can also do virtually.
mm-hmm,
um, I am working on finishing what I think is a really fun children's book called The Blue Elephant, which is really my story told. The character is Chance, who is the
mm-hmm.
baby elephant.
Okay.
And then the book about the sanctuary and all of the animal stories that I tell in my talks. They pooped, we scooped. Unexpected wisdom picked up at an animal sanctuary, which it'd be fun. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, that is phenomenal. We're going to be looking forward to your books. And of course, we want to see more of your talks. So we'll be looking you up online for that as well. So if you're listening out there, you heard about the book right here. So go out, make sure you follow David and subscribe to his channels. I'll have a link to his channels and contact information in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. In the last 2 minutes, David, what's one thought that you would like to leave the audience with today?
I will. I do this at the end of every talk. So Dr. Drew Ramsey is an esteemed psychiatrist, really leading the research and the personal experience of brain gut health. And Dr. Ramsey, so somebody who has sat with somebody like me as a patient for years and years and years, here's what he reminds us. So I would say, everybody take this to heart, because this applies to every single one of us every single day. And here's what he says: someone you see today is thinking about killing themselves. Your smile, your question, your love could save them. Trust me, they told me it did.
Wow.
We
My
got it right here. We hold that possibility. Every single person. You don't know which one's suffering. So how about we just look to connect in any way that we can? Remember, our smile, our question, our love could save them. Trust me, they
That's
told me.
so brilliant. And
Yeah,
that's what we're doing here today.
exactly.
So I hope everyone watching enjoys what they've heard and hope that you take something away from it that you can use to light your own path. Thank you so much, David. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you
Greg.
showing up, and we'll be talking real soon, okay?
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.